Aaron is with the National Shooting Sports Foundation. And of course, CJ Grisham, a lot of you guys know. CJ is with Texas Gun Rights.
I'm going to try to record that. I'll try not to. Oh,
Richard
thanks.
Hayes.
It's on live,
Okay.
so don't say anything embarrassing.
Okay.
Richard is with Walker and Taylor. He has a fantastic YouTube channel called Armed Attorneys, and he does a lot of work for us during the legislative session, bringing those updates to us. And then, of course, Wes Friedel here. And Wes, I believe that's all the panel today, am I correct? Yes, fantastic. Give me just a minute. We're going to get started today just with a few questions, with some questions for the panel. Everyone's going to have a chance to respond. And so just give the attention to the folks here on the panel. Wes, how about you get us started off? How long have you been doing this?
So roughly over 10 years.
Get into the mic.
I still can't. Oh. All right, gotta get real close. So about 10 years, and very grateful for everything I've learned and to be where I'm at now.
Fantastic. Richard?
All right, so I've been licensed about 10 years now. I will say I've been active in the Second Amendment community for about 6 of those, and I don't know how it happened. I just got roped in one day, and here we are. But I would like to thank GOA for inviting me here. I'm one of the legislative counsels for Gun Owners of America. If you see good 2A legislation moving on behalf of Gun Owners of America, Wes has a lot to do with that. And my partners who couldn't be here, Taylor, Dylan Price, Evan Walker, we're very grateful to serve in that role.
Thank you. CJ?
So, how long have I been in this?
Yes.
I grew up around guns. My father taught me, so I've always been very pro 2A. But I didn't become an activist until I got arrested for exercising my 2A rights and realized that it kind of opened my eyes to Texas not being as gun-friendly as our attitude or our reputation suggests. So I just kind of got roped into it, but it was 10 years ago last month that I really became an activist.
I don't know, if you just listen to everybody, we all say we got roped in at one point or another, right? If you're an activist, you sometimes don't even remember how it all got started. Thank you, CJ. Darren?
Good morning. So, like CJ, I started very early, probably before I even knew what the Second Amendment was. I was carrying a rifle every day of my life when I was 7, 8, 6 years old, from Montana originally, which is sort of Texas of the north. And so that's kind of my initial interest in it. Then in 1999, Columbine happened. I was kind of working the gun rights issue in Arizona, even though I was lobbying for another organization. NRA was very busy in California, so kind of started my own group called Citizens for Self-Defense in Arizona, lobbied for concealed carry, reciprocity, some other things. And then in 99, Columbine happened and realized that I needed to go to the NRA and fight the good fight there and do the best we could to turn things around after that tragedy. And so been doing it since 1999.
Thank you. Tara?
Can you hear me? Hi, Tara Mitchell, the National Rifle Association. I've been doing this since 1993. I won't count those years for you. Darren and I actually worked together. He reminded me when we were lobbying together on something in New Mexico this year that I actually interviewed him when he wanted to get a job with NRA. So I didn't remember that, but it's been a while. My first session here in Texas was 1997. I've been a Texan since 2001. My husband is from Texas, and he is the state director for Senator Ted Cruz. So we have a household full of fun and controversy and conservatism, and it's been a blast. I've been around for all the major initiatives as far as our gun rights go in Texas. 1995 was the session before I got here, but I was assisting the lobbyist we had at the time from NRA headquarters in the 1995 effort to pass the license to carry law. So it's been real, the fight continues, and I'm glad I think everybody at this table, we work as a collective. We may not always agree on things, but we're all rowing in the same direction. So I think that's great and maybe unique among the states.
Thank you, Tara. So you guys, all of you have mentioned a little bit about how you got involved. Why don't you land on what you think was maybe that turning point, maybe the most important thing that really changed your mind about what you were doing with your life, maybe. Maybe you said, hey, I'm about to change everything and this is where I'm gonna go. Wes, why don't you start out for us?
Yeah, I'll say my parents are back there. Thanks for coming. They've been extremely grateful. They have a diesel repair shop that I helped in, and in 2000, roughly 2011 is when I started noticing our open carry laws, and that's when it really got my attention. My parents were understanding and cheered me on, supported me to come down here to the Capitol and fight for this, and once we saw the open carry victory happen, then just like everybody got hungry for the constitutional carry victory, and now we're getting to the point where maybe some lackadaisical kind of mentality going on, and this is when the Democrats are watching, and they know this is when they can start getting their bills passed, so we have to be on our game now. But it comes back to the open carry issue is what got me into this.
Thank you. Go ahead, Richard.
So I started out, I'm a criminal defense attorney. That's kind of the main thing that I do. I handle lots of firearms cases, self-defense cases, and I think part of me, I was getting frustrated with seeing how things play out in the courtroom, and so I was thinking, how can I help? And I was thinking, let's go upstream, fix it in the legislature so that by the time it gets to me, things will not be so bad. I think it's an Indian proverb where it's like, if you're pulling people out of the river, maybe you should go up river and figure out what's going on. So that's kind of how I felt what was going on. And then I'd say in 2020, just kind of out of a fluke, I was contacted by GOA saying, hey, you know what, we need help with constitutional permitless carry here in the state of Texas. Will you draft us a bill? And we have no expectation that it goes anywhere. NRA at that time had filed, I think, half a dozen different versions, and lots of other groups had filed theirs. And so, I kind of volunteered and said, sure, I'll write you a constitutional carry bill. And I think the way that we approach this, and just because of my experience in the courtroom, I looked at those bills and saw what they did. They added a whole bunch of law, and I got to go back to fundamentals when it comes to our right to keep and bear arms. And we should be removing infringements, and so that's how I really kind of structured our permitless carry bill around it. And then I just got that call one day saying, "Hey, it's our bill, it's happening." And Ron Paul him saying it's happening, and so that's what got me involved. And I'd say it took it to the next level for me, just trying to help people who defend themselves. That's our fundamental. That's what the Second Amendment's all about: being able to defend ourselves. That's where I started. And then seeing how we can affect change in the legislature. I think that's really where the battle is, and so that's kind of where I came from.
Thank you, Richard. CJ, you touched on this a little bit. Go ahead and tell us your story and how you what made you really jump into this.
Well, it's kind of funny. I'm going to go backwards and jump off of what Richard said, because ironically, I saw a lack of action in the legislature, so I went to law school. So I can fight him in the courts. So now he's kind of making me feel like I made the wrong choice here, because the fight's back here in the legislature. 10 years ago, just like has been mentioned, I've been carrying guns my entire life. I grew up in a military family, but every summer I would come and work on my farm here in Texas, my family's farm. And we carried rifles in our tractors, in our trucks, on foot, because we had coyotes, we have hogs, we have wildcats out there. I'm talking about the big animals that the prosecutor said doesn't exist. And I'm out there. My son was working on his Eagle Scout merit badge or Eagle Scout rank, and he wanted to. He needed hiking, biking, or swimming. I think were one of the mandatory ones he didn't have. So he decided hiking. And I said, okay, well, why don't you go ahead and plot out a 10-mile hike, and keep it close to around here, so we don't have to go anywhere, and be somewhat easy, because it's generally flat. And so it's my son's fault. Don't thank me, thank him for plotting this thing. So, I'm out there and like I always do, I've got my rifle on me and I'm a military veteran. At the time I was active duty, 2013, I was a master sergeant. And so I wasn't out to make any points or anything like that. I was literally out in the middle of nowhere and ended up getting accosted by an officer. Someone had called and said that it was odd that there's a man walking around with a gun. Someone that didn't even live in that town, they were just driving by. The police showed up and he grabbed my gun. He's like, "Is there some reason why you've got this?" And my famous catchphrase, "Because I can." And that's what catapults me. But really at that point, all it did was make me angry, because here I am dealing with, for the first time in my life, criminal charges. But what really turned me, believe it or not, was in April, the following month, some people organized a big rally to support my case. And we had 400 armed Texans show up in Temple, Texas. And that's when I knew, people care about this. We need to do something. We need to harness this energy and make it statewide. And so I started Open Carry Texas. And, a few years ago, I got tired of fighting in the streets, so I decided I'm going to law school. And now I'm going to fight in the courtroom.
Thank you very much for that. It's those special stories that we hear that I think encourages us to get into the fight if we haven't already. Go ahead, Darren, and tell us a little bit about what made you just really jump into this.
I just wish I had CJ's energy level. Thinking about going to law school at this age, nightmare scenario that would definitely end in failure.
I don't recommend it.
Like I said, when I was 7 years old, I was carrying a rifle everywhere I went. My dad was career Army, never talked to me about guns for self-defense, so never even considered it, never contemplated it. We moved into a new house out in the country, and one night my 10-year-old sister and I was 7 years old, were home alone, and it was dark outside, and somebody started trying to kick the front door in. And there were stairs that led right down to the front door. And so immediately, without even hesitating, ran into my room, grabbed my 10-22 rifle, racked around in, sat at the top of the stairs. Guy looked in the side window as he couldn't get in through the door, and that was it. End of the day, he left. That was the first time I had ever considered guns as a self-defense tool, but really it was just DNA level, because no one had ever talked to me about it. And so, shot a lot as a kid growing up, and then 17 years old going to high school in Seattle-Tacoma area. The Crips and the Bloods were raging up there. They'd all come up from LA because the drug market in LA was so depressed. And so we had a lot of problems with gangs. And when I was 17 years old, some adult Crip gang members, I was minding my own business, decided to rob us at gunpoint. I had a gun stuck to my head and ended up getting out of that situation after getting pretty badly beaten. And kind of said that day I'll never be that helpless again as long as I live. And the day I turned 18, I began carrying a gun, and every day of my life since I've carried a gun. I carry a gun to go into the garbage can. I didn't expect, the garbage out of the back alley. I didn't expect to be a victim that day I was, and that's one thing I learned, is that you just don't know. And so it's best to be prepared, and I'm never going to be in that situation of helplessness again. Have shot competitively and trained, hundreds and hundreds of hours since then. So, I got to Arizona, lobbied for the Arizona Supreme Court. NRA was busy in California, understandably, at that time, and so I did start my own group called Citizens for Self-Defense in Arizona, lobbied for concealed carry and some reciprocity bills. And in 1999, I was sitting in the House lobby, and there was a split screen, the House of Representatives debating my reciprocity bill at the time on the floor, and on the other screen was Columbine on CNN and breaking out. And the guy standing next to me was a guy I've always revered. He was the president of the Senate at the time, best orator I've ever heard, 30 years of doing this, and a real strong gun rights supporter. And he knew what I was doing, on my own time in the state capitol. And as we were watching this in Columbine and the CNN coverage, he looked at me and said, "We're going to lose our guns." So at that moment, I loved Arizona, loved the job that I was doing, decided that I was going to go try to work for NRA. And the funny story is, when someone reminded me of this the other day, is NRA used to have a building in Washington, D.C. itself. And I remember going to visit when my dad was working at the Pentagon and I was going to college at Arizona State. And I went into the lobby, and I just remember sitting there in the lobby, 18, 19 years old, and I was looking up at the lights, looking up at the ceiling, and just wondering how I could ever go work, be able to work for the NRA. And so I was able to actually fulfill that dream, even though it was under some pretty rough circumstances. And what we did at NRA and the organizations around us from after Columbine was nothing short of remarkable. When you think about the turnaround in our restoration of rights, 27 states with constitutional carry. No, if you said that in 2000, if you went around talking to everybody in 2000 that in 2023 there'd be 27 states that allowed the citizens to conceal carry without any sort of government permission, you would be put in the funny farm, period. So that's how successful this group and we have been. And that's my story. Sticking to it.
Thank you. Tara, go ahead.
Yeah, so I grew up in the suburbs of Washington DC, didn't grow up around firearms. We always had a gun in the house. My father was an FBI agent. Didn't know much about them, didn't have much interest in them. After college, I went to the University of Virginia, majored in American government, so it was natural that I would go back to Washington DC and find a career in politics or something. So my first time living away from home was in Washington DC, and it was at the height of the crack epidemic. And 2 people were shot within 1 week on the road I lived on, North Carolina Avenue. It's maybe 2 blocks from Capitol Hill. And I called my dad and I said, I can't break this lease. He said, I'll break it for you. But he said, let's get you trained up on a firearm. Then we can go get you one. And that's when I learned, hadn't put much thought into it, you couldn't own a firearm in DC at that point. I mean, there's shootings on every block. I can't believe my parents even let me live there. It was crazy how dangerous Northeast DC around Capitol Hill was at that time. And the fact that I, as a law-abiding citizen, couldn't own a firearm legally in the city to protect me from all these crackheads that were around. I thought, this just doesn't make sense to me. It kind of sat in the back of my mind. I ended up breaking my lease and moving across the Potomac River to Virginia, where it was a lot safer. But that always stood in the back of my mind. And then an opportunity came up at NRA to be an assistant to a couple lobbyists. I said, well, I've got the right degree. I don't like election work much. Let's go see what this is all about. And I thought, once I got in there, I remembered that experience of living in DC and being defenseless. And I thought, maybe this was just meant to be. And over the years, I've learned a lot about guns, learned way more than I ever thought about the issue. And, I've been around long enough to see the federal assault weapons ban enacted and then sunsetted. And people are trying to do it to us again. It's like we've come full circle on that, as well as licensed carry and constitutional carry. It's been a blast to just see how this issue has evolved over 30 years. But that's how I got started in it, kind of fell into it, but it all made sense once I got there because of my previous experience living on my own and in a city that wouldn't let you have a gun.
Thank you. We've been involved with some of the committee hearings lately, and one of them that I sat in was where we saw and were discussing the tragedy of Uvalde. And my question for you guys is, in light of that, how do you think that has changed how we discuss gun rights? And possibly, what is our next 2A fight in the light of these kinds of tragedies? Go ahead, Wes.
Yeah, I would say, one of the things we're seeing right now is unfortunately the anti-gunners are trying to take advantage of the tragedy that the families have dealt with, and they're trying to use them to manipulate the situation. And, we were in a committee hearing the other day, and some of the Uvalde family members had testified. It's a terrible thing they went through. Nothing we can ever say is going to bring them peace about what happened in that. But unfortunately, we watched a representative get onto Tara pretty, basically like saying how dare she have free speech and come up and testify against this really bad anti-gun bill. As a freshman lobbyist, I'm having to learn a lot on the fly, and I'm really lucky to have all these guys to give me guidance on what works well. But I hope people will see that we can't stay idle right now after the constitutional carry victory, that we have to have people come to the Capitol and let our legislators know, because I promise you, Moms Demand Action, the George Soros groups, all of them are very well organized, and they are spending a ton of money and time talking to the legislators. I had a conversation with the legislator this morning, I won't say who, but anyways, we were discussing on the way to the Capitol about some bills that we were looking at, and he said, hey, I get it, but we are getting so many calls asking us what we're gonna do since the Uvalde tragedy happened. And unfortunately, I'm talking to him, but I can tell he's worried about all the contact he's getting from the people that want to see anti-gun laws put in place or stricter gun laws put in place. And so for me, it's kind of disheartening to hear this legislator kind of have that. And he said, look, I agree with you, but we're getting overwhelmed with these calls. So the biggest approach is always going to be activism, and we see it on the decline this year after the constitutional carry victory, and we really need grassroots folks getting engaged with legislators.
Thank you, Wes. I'm going to jump down to Tara, since Wes kind of mentioned your committee experience. Would you like to speak to this question of what you see might be our next 2A fight in light of the fact that we've had the Uvalde tragedy?
First, just to mention that hearing last week, I think honestly there were more people on our side in the room that were more upset about that than I was. I don't know, I guess after 30 years I'm kind of used to being kicked around a little bit. And I lobbied New Mexico for NRA, which is a blue state. They have the blue trifecta. They are horrible to me out there. So nothing I've experienced here could come close to the abuse I put up with in New Mexico. So maybe that's just why I was able to shrug it off. But I felt going into this session post Uvalde that we were going to really be challenged on some of the gun control laws or gun control bills that have been proposed. I sensed a great deal of complacency among 2A groups and 2A activists and members. We checked that very important box, constitutional carry. Great, we ought to give ourselves a hand on that. But, the tragedy in Uvalde is presenting some issues for us this session. And we can be sympathetic and respectful to those families while defending our constitutional rights with every ounce of energy we've got. There's no reason you can't do both. I think there's members of a certain party in this building that say you can't possibly do both, which is wrong. I think we need to get beyond the patting ourselves on the backstage about constitutional carry and really look hard at what's happening. There may not be a great deal of gun control that gets enacted here in Texas this session, but it's going to be debated and discussed. And that's the first step. Like I said, I lobby in New Mexico. There's a national game plan here, and they're working the long game here in Texas. So New Mexico, let's see, what session was that? 2019, they passed universal background checks. 2020, they passed red flag legislation. This past legislative session, 2023, I had to spend 58 out of 60 days of their 60-day session out there fighting assault weapons bans, magazine limits, waiting periods, raise the age bills, lawsuits against the firearms industry, mandatory storage. I mean, all those in a 60-day session. It was crazy. Darren was there for part of it. But that's what they're working towards here. And they'll start with bills that they call common sense, that are frankly, to some, some legislators that represent suburban House districts with a ton of soccer moms in them, proposals that might sound on their face reasonable to them. And you've got to drill down to what those proposals really do. I mean, get to know those issues, because they're raise the age, universal background checks, red flag. That's what they'll go for here first. That's what they're already working this session towards. And then comes the bigger, nastier stuff, which is obvious to us and everybody else that we oppose. But that's the plan. It's already in motion here. So congratulations to everybody at this table and everybody in the audience who participated in constitutional carry. Enjoy that right. Move on to the next thing, because it's here.
Thank you so much. We've got about 5 minutes, and I just want to hear from each of you on what you think people out here in the room and our friends out there and our communities can do to help keep our gun rights. Anybody want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. I think we had an extremely defensive session. I mean, as you know, on behalf of GOA, we tracked over 250 bills filed this session. Virtually every law you can imagine that exists in California was filed here in the state of Texas. And so, it goes to show, we're the Alamo state. Those are insurmountable odds. The number is, 10 to 1, good 2A bills versus bad bills. And so just the volume is overwhelming. And I think what will help this fight moving forward, and I see self-defense under attack. I see who can carry, where you can carry, what you can carry. We see all those attacks coming. What I think, and that y'all are the most dedicated people, so it's like preaching to the choir. But I think what we can do to be the most helpful is to support good lawmakers. Those folks who stick their neck out, who try to repeal these infringements, it's pretty easy, pick up the phone, shoot somebody out, hey, why'd you do this? But going out, working their campaigns, getting to know them, getting to know where they stand on the Second Amendment, and if they're on the right side of this stuff, help them. And I will tell you that pays dividends. Texas, thank God we're only in session, every other year for 6 months. But that work in between sessions, I think, would be a big help for next session, and that's what I would recommend.
Excellent. CJ, go ahead.
I'll be a little more blunt about this. I look out here and I'm so thankful that you're here. But all of those successes that we had were because people showed up. And it's actually, we're not just involved in a legislative battle or a constitutional battle, but we're involved in a media battle. And we have got to start showing up a lot more. That's how we got open carry. We got open carry because we showed up. The left is very, you come out here on 2744 day, the last Tuesday, we had a bunch of gun bills, and Tara's right, I was probably way more upset about that committee than she was, and she even told me, just calm down, CJ, it's okay, I'm good. And I'm like, well, I'm not, but I didn't do anything, except on YouTube. It's, if we just say, okay, we're done, and go home, this reminds me of what happened. I was in Iraq in 2003 for the main assault into Iraq. We did the first Thunder Run, April, I think it was 5th, into Baghdad. And we fought our way all the way to the airport, and then we withdrew. And we thought, okay, Saddam's going to give up now because he sees what we're capable of. We went in there. Nope. We had to go in there a second time. And had to fight harder that second time. I lost more friends on the second Thunder Run than I lost on the first Thunder Run. Because we allowed them to regroup, and we allowed them to see what our strength was, and we didn't stay in the fight. We withdrew. And thank God for Colonel Perkins, our brigade commander that day, because we went in and we were ordered to do the exact same thing. Go in, fight our way in, let them see our strength, and then come back out. And Colonel Perkins says, no, we've taken Baghdad and we're keeping it. And that's what gun owners, that's the attitude that we need to have. We've come in here, we've taken constitutional carry, we've taken unlicensed carry. Now we can go back to watching Netflix
And we can't do that because you look at the opposition and they are rabid and they're showing up. And it doesn't matter, we make these excuses, oh, I've got a job, or oh, they're funding buses, and all this kind of stuff. Okay, if that's gonna be your excuse, then when you lose your rights, just remember, heck, if I'd only paid $30 that day to drive down to the Capitol and, taking one of my leave days on an important bill, that wouldn't have happened. The next big fight is gun-free zones. That's what we've got to get rid of. We've got to get rid of gun-free zones. And what we've also got to do is stop being ashamed when bad people do bad things. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's not the gun's fault. And we can, like Tara said, we can be empathetic and sympathetic to what happened, but we need to take the emotion. They are using an emotional argument on a constitutional right and a very serious issue of self-defense. And if we don't remove the emotion, and I'm good at that because as a combat veteran, I don't have any emotions except for anger and anxiety. But if we don't remove that emotion, you can't win on an emotional fight. You can never win on an emotional fight. You've got to stay rational.
Thank you, CJ. We got 1 minute here, and if you will close for us.
So, what Tara was saying earlier is that the opposition really is desensitizing us by bringing all these proposals forward. Richard mentioned everything that California has, and then some. There's a bill that actually requires, I represent the firearm industry, National Shooting Sports Foundation. You wouldn't necessarily know it by the name, but I represent the firearm industry. And this other bill would require that we report every time someone buys 3 detachable magazines in a 5-day period. I've been doing this for 30 years, Tara longer. I've never seen anything like this anywhere, but that's in Texas. So they are absolutely trying to desensitize us. What I will say is take every opportunity to educate your fellow citizens and encourage them that their effort to make a call to a legislator in particular means something. Every call to a legislative office means something. They need to hear from constituents saying that there's support, please support my Second Amendment rights, something as general as that. And then specific on bills when it's appropriate, and GOA and NRA notify you of particular bills. But I'm generally a pessimist when it comes to the future and our destiny and things going the way they are right now, unfortunately. But there is a reason to be optimistic. And those are 3 ballot initiatives on universal background checks in Washington State, Nevada, and Maine. Polling went in, 90% support. Yep, we need universal background checks on every gun sale, private, whatever. After the educational efforts, and we were outspent, NRA was outspent, 20-1. But during those educational efforts, this is why you should not support this. Support in Washington State, very liberal state, went down to 59% on election day. In Nevada, it went down to 50.5% on election day. And in Maine, it went to 48% on election day. It just goes to show that there is hope, that people do listen, and that you can change hearts and minds on these pretty emotional issues. And so when you hear about the 90% support for universal background checks, that's hilarious. They're still referring to the polling kind of like they do 19-year-old gang members as children. They're still referring to the polling even though we have those ballot results in 3 states that show about 55%, 54%. And that's when we're outspent 20-1. So educate and encourage every time you have a chance. Get involved in discussion. Educate yourself. Educate your friends. Continue that battle day to day, and then make sure that people do get active when GOA or NRA or open carry ask you to act, because every contact makes a difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Everybody give these folks a round of applause.
Hey, I just want to say one thing. I just want to say thank y'all for coming up here today. We've all got different skill sets, and we utilize them all together to get this done. So thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Wes.
Well, if you'd like, folks want to stand up, stretch out a little bit, I'm going to call Michael Cargill up to the stage. Michael, is he in the room? You might be outside. Stretch out a little bit, say hi to your neighbor. We'll get Michael up here shortly.
Is there a place around there I could get something to drink? 'Cause I
Yeah, there's a place called the Capitol Grill. It's right across here. Yes, sir.
How would everybody like to take a seat? I think I see Michael back there. Michael, we've got a few minutes if you want to come on up. Michael, if you'd like to come on up. I'd love to introduce Michael Cargill. He is with Central Texas Gunworks. He's the owner there. He's an instructor. He is an FFL Second Amendment protector, and he's going to give us some legal updates, I believe, on the Garland versus Cargill bump stock ban and the Cargill versus ATF paperwork errors. He is a busy man. Welcome, Michael Cargill.
Woo! Michael!
Awesome. How's everyone doing today?
All right.
Awesome. Excited to be here. I love being at the Capitol. All right, so we have two different really important cases that are going before the courts right now, and one of them is going to be the Cargill versus Garland case. That's the bump stock lawsuit case. The reason why the bump stock lawsuit case is so important, the Cargill v. Garland, is because in that case, we actually won in the Fifth Circuit. All right, so we filed this case back in 2019. And so we lost in the first court, of course, in Austin, the federal court. We appealed that case because the judge in the first case, his mindset was, so you're telling me that a bump stock is kind of like a shotgun where you pull with your left hand, and then pull forward, like a shotgun. I said, no, it's not like a shotgun. So we just didn't even decide to even go with that any further. We just let him go ahead and rule against the case. So we appealed this case. It went to the Fifth Circuit. And the Fifth Circuit, there are a majority of conservative justices on that court. Now, there are about 4 Democrat-appointed justices. There are a total of, I think, 16, 17 judges on that court. Out of the 16, 17 judges that are in the Fifth Circuit, only 4 of them were Democrat-appointed justices. Who do you think, how many Republicans versus Democrat do you think we pulled for that case? We only needed 3 judges.
Oh, goodness.
We pulled all 3 Democrat-appointed judges.
Wow.
So of course, we lost that case. So we appealed to
the full
the
panel.
entire Fifth Circuit. We wanted this case to be heard en banc in front of all the different judges in that court. And so they granted our appeal throughout the previous ruling, heard it in the entire Fifth Circuit in front of all the judges there. And so they actually said, okay, well, machine gun is kind of, one action of the trigger. It fires 1 round, that's a semi-automatic. But a machine gun, you pull the trigger, 1 action of the trigger shoots multiple rounds, and that is a machine gun. That's important because it's all about the trigger, not about any stocks or anything that you put on the firearm. It's about the trigger. So they also ruled and they said, you know what? ATF cannot create a right law. And that's the most important thing, that the ATF just cannot arbitrarily one day decide, after 4 or 5 years, something that was legal in this country is now illegal in this country. And so they ruled in my favor. 13 judges to 3 that I was correct. ATF cannot write law, and the definition of what the machine gun was. And so we won that case in the Fifth Circuit. The reason that is important because now we're looking at the brace ban, where now the ATF is coming back and they're saying, okay, well now braces, anything you put a brace on an AR pistol, then that's an SBR, you have to register it. And so they started that January 31st. Well, my case is important, the Cargill v. Garland case, the bump stock case, because it says that the ATF cannot create a right law. So everyone that's going forward right now is actually quoting my case as case law in the Fifth Circuit that says, hey, stop what you're doing, ATF. You cannot write or create law. Congress does that. A bill has to go to Congress, both sides vote on it, the president signs it, it becomes law. That's how laws are made in this country. We've all heard of that Schoolhouse Rock song, right? How laws are made.
Yep.
Well, that's how laws are made, not because an agency, whether it's the EPA, whether it's the ATF, whether it's the DOJ, whatever agency within our federal government decides that they want to create something. They cannot do that. They have to go through Congress. And so we won that case, and then guess what? The beginning of April, the very last day, the very last hour, around 11 o'clock at night, the federal government, the Department of Justice, appealed this case to the U.S. Supreme Court. So now the Cargill v. Garland case is now before the United States Supreme Court.
Wow.
And this is a good thing.
That's
I
good.
think it's a great thing because the way the court is stacked right now, I think we have a great chance of making sure that bump stocks become legal in all 50 states and that the ATF cannot write law in all 50 states.
Yeah.
Not just Texas. So what has to happen now is the Supreme Court has to take the case. They take the case, there's a trial, of course, and then we'll hear what happens there. If the U.S. Supreme Court decides not to take the case, that case will go back down to the lower court, which means that bump stocks and the ATF can't write law just in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi. We want this to be for all 50 states, not just for Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi.
Yeah.
Good
Even
job.
though Texas is the only thing that counts, but, I want to be for all 50 states.
Sorry, I don't know if it's true.
No, you're fine, go ahead.
I saw yesterday that the Sixth Circuit
Yeah.
has the same thing, so you're gonna.
That is correct.
Yep. So 5th and 6th Circuit.
That's correct. So on Monday, the Sixth Circuit actually ruled kind of the same way. So this looks great because the Sixth Circuit's looked at it in the same way. The Fifth Circuit says yes. So that's important because other circuits have actually decided other ways. So this almost guarantees the fact that this case is going to be heard in front of the Supreme Court, and that's what we want. We want this case to be heard in front of the Supreme Court because we're trying to make case law here and that's why I say this is one of the most important cases of our lifetime. ATF cannot write law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's right. And then the other case that we're working on, I have quite a few cases out there. This next one is the Cargill versus the ATF. Now that's an important case because now the ATF has decided to go after gun stores, your mom and pop gun stores who've been in business for decades, passed down the business from one family member to another. They decided to walk into the door of these gun stores under the Biden administration, and they're starting to inspect them in hopes that they find little small paperwork errors. Just something little simple as if, like you walk into the gun store and you fill out the 4473, that firearms transaction record. There's a little box on there that actually says, county, but people mistake that for country. And they put the United States or US, and it's supposed to be their county that they live in. Well, because of that little small paperwork error, they're actually starting to shut gun stores down just for something as simple as that. And so I figured, it's looking like I'm going to win a couple of cases here against the federal government. I might want to provide some cover for myself. So I got tired of being on the offensive all the time. I decided to be on the defensive all the time. I wanted to be on the offensive this time. So I filed the case against the ATF to stop them from going after the gun stores for paperwork errors. And it's just not for me, it's for all gun stores in the United States. So we're going after them for that, trying to let them know that, hey, that's not what the guidelines, that's not how the guidelines are written. The guidelines are written like this. If someone walks to a gun store and you transfer a firearm to a prohibited person, then you are breaking the law, okay? The person's not a prohibited person just because they didn't dot their I and cross their T. They just made a mistake on the paperwork, not because we transfer a gun to someone who could not take possession of it. So we filed this lawsuit against the federal government, and so it's working its way up, and we'll see what happens with that one. Because we need to protect all gun stores, especially our mom and pops, because they are the backbone of the United States.
Hey, Michael, are you getting financial support? Like, are you getting support from other FFLs and things?
No. So right now it's just Michael Cargill going against the Department of Justice, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and all this stuff. I do have other organizations like NCLA. They're a law firm that actually is helping me with the Cargill v. Garland case, the bump stock case. Also have Texas Public Policy Foundation that is helping me with the paperwork error, the Cargill versus the ATF case.
Okay.
So as far as haven't heard from the NRA and haven't answered any of my calls. So we'll see what happens.
I've heard of cases where the ATF is now going after people with binary triggers. You enlighten us to what that situation is?
Correct. So there's a case, I think it's in the Northeast for rare breed triggers. Is that what you're talking about?
It's double action. Is it force reset or? It's called binary. You pull it, it fires, you release it, it fires.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not aware of any cases right now for that one. And there could be, I just don't know, to be honest with you. Yeah. Any other questions out there? Ask away. How you like this, the case that actually was won last year by the 18, 19, 20-year-olds?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good case there. 18, 19, 20-year-olds can actually carry a gun in the constitutional carry law and get their license.
Mm-hmm.
I had a group of 18-year-olds actually take my class here a few weeks ago, and it was weird because they started asking very cute, specific questions that made me think, okay, man, 18, 19, 20-year-olds can actually carry a gun in Texas, get their license to carry a handgun, so that means that they're covered under the state law and federal law to get their LTC at 18, 19, 20. At 18, you can be in high school at 18, and you can legally carry your handgun and have it in the parking lot of your vehicle and covered under state law and federal law with an LTC.
Yep.
You just have to make sure, you're aware of the rules for the school. Make sure you're not suspended or expelled. Under the law, you're good to go. So they're asking very key questions, and it actually made me think about that and think about the law. It's good. People are actually getting their LTC now because, the federal government has actually created a law that if you're below 21 years of age, you're 18, 19, or 20 years old, you walk into the gun store to pick up for example, a rifle. That's one thing you can get from a gun store, 18, 19, 20, a rifle. Well, they're going to automatically delay you because you're 18, 19, or 20. But if they get their LTC, they can bypass that, thanks to Texas and that lawsuit those 18, 19, 20-year-olds filed.
Yep.
So I think that's also a great thing. So that's actually helping, put a little stab back at the federal government there. So you get your LTC at 18, 19, 20, you can bypass the background check system and get your gun.
Yep.
I like that. Any questions out there about anything?
What's the situation like in Austin, Travis County as far as the, people out doing naughty stuff they shouldn't be doing? Like breaking into gun stores in the middle of the night.
Yeah, back in 2020, we actually had a group of 8 people and 5 vehicles try to break into the gun store. Luckily, they were not able to get in, and thanks to quick response of the police department and our security team that we have also, we're able to run them off. Unfortunately, because of the lack of resources that the Austin Police Department has, they weren't able to do a lot of investigation with that and find anyone responsible for that. Because the Austin Police Department is short about 300 officers, thanks to the Austin City Council leadership. So luckily, over the last 2 weeks, we've had the Department of Public Safety, DPS, actually assist the city of Austin with patrolling and things of that nature. And believe it or not, for the last 2 weeks, crime has been greatly reduced thanks to DPS.
Yeah.
Greatly reduced. So DPS is doing a great job in augmenting the Austin Police Department and shutting things down, stopping these races that they're trying to do, and all this kind of crazy mess and crimes that have been committed by 13, 14, 50-year-olds who are stealing guns from vehicles and committing crimes late at night.
Well, everybody, I hate to cut you short. I know Michael will be here. We're trying to stay on schedule, so give Michael a round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm going to call up our favorite good guy, Stephen Williford. Stephen is now one of GOA's national spokesmen, and he's best known as the Barefoot Defender. Come on up, Stephen. Give a round of applause, y'all.
Thank you very much. Most of you probably know my story, and most of you are probably sitting there waiting, it's like, okay, bring on Ted Nugent. He's gonna be here soon enough.
I'm here right now, Steve.
There he
There's
is.
the man, right there. So, everybody probably knows my story. In Sutherland Springs, Texas, November 5th, 2017, probably the worst day of my life. A madman came in and started murdering people in the church, killing people, taking lives, shooting through the windows and the walls of a 100-year-old church. My daughter came to me and said, "Dad, doesn't that sound like gunfire?" Made me aware of it. I ran to my safe. I grabbed out an AR-15, and I'm going to tell you, if you know you're going into a gunfight and you have a choice, always choose a rifle over a pistol. I grabbed an AR-15, a handful of ammunition, ran across the street barefoot to engage a shooter. People say, "Really, you didn't take time to put shoes on?" And I tell them, "You're lucky I had pants on." To be called a pantsless defender just doesn't roll off the tongue as well as a barefoot defender. I didn't shoot that guy because I hated him. I engaged and shot a madman because I loved everybody in that church. Just recently, I was here in Texas, here at the Capitol, to fight for our rights. And they brought all the families of the murdered victims in Uvalde to speak, to take away our gun rights. And I was even threatened by one of the fathers. And it broke my heart, because when they told their stories, I felt their grief and I cried with them. But what they were proposing was not going to help. You can take all the guns away from all the good guys in this world, and it is not going to stop it. You can go and you can look at what happened in France, where they came in with full automatic AK-47s, and those are illegal in France, right along with just about everything else. And they murdered people. You cannot stop evil from getting a gun. And it is ridiculous to take away guns from innocent people, because then I could not have done what I did. What those family members needed to realize, and they jeered me when I said I was from Sutherland Springs, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
What they needed to realize, if I would have been there, I would have risked my own life for their children. And they blame me for that. You know, Ronald Reagan said it best, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it exactly. He said, we are no more than one generation away from, freedom is no more than one generation away from extinction. It wasn't passed down through our bloodline. It must be fought for and protected and handed down to the next generation. He said, I don't want to spend my waning years telling my grandchildren what it was like living in a free nation. And I would add to that, let it never be said that it's my generation that refused to stand and defend this nation and defend our rights. I have 7 grandbabies, and I can't even imagine what it would be like if they live in a country that is communist. They like to call it socialism. Socialism and communism are pretty much the same thing. There is no true socialism. It always ends up communism. They like to take and say, well, you know, if nobody had a gun, Sheriff Louderback, is that you back there? No. I'm sorry, I got the light in my face a little bit. Sheriff Louderback was talking one time, and he scared me. He said the drug cartels on the other side of the border have a $500 billion budget. He said that when they make busts down on the border, they're not getting AR-15s and AK-47s like we do. They're getting 3-pin machine guns. They're getting rocket-propelled grenade launchers, and that's at our southern border. Where do you think they're getting those? They get those through the black market. So he said, let's play the liberals' mindset for a moment. Let's just say that, and this is impossible, but he said, let's just say for a moment that they can pass gun control and every good guy with a gun, every evil man with a gun will turn in their guns and they can just destroy them all. Liberal nirvana will never happen, but let's play that game for a moment. So that happens. And again, what I tell you about the drug cartels, they're getting out of the black market. So they continue to supply guns to evil people. But let's just say we can even dry up the black market for just a moment, just following it out. So they turn around and the black market gets dried up, and the drug cartels sit around scratching their heads and now what are we going to do? They have a $500 billion budget. They turn around and build the finest gun manufacturing plant this world has ever seen south of our border. They employ the people in the villages around them to build those guns. And then they pass them out to who? To good guys with a gun? I don't think so. They pass them out to who? People that they think they can control. Now all the bad guys with guns, good men and women like me, yourselves, are left defenseless. I say never on my watch. I'll never give away my guns. I'll never turn them in. They're going to have to come get them. Sutherland Springs lost 26 people that day. 20 more were injured. Chris Bird wrote a book, and in his subtitle in the book was When Seconds Count, Police Are Minutes Away. Now, I am a big proponent for our men and women in blue, the thin blue line, people that would run into danger and risk their own lives for you, and they don't even know your name. But police or second responders. They are not first responders. You are your own first responder. These men and women that you see coming up here on this stage today, we're out here fighting. We're not fighting for our rights. We're fighting for our children's rights, the future of this nation. And every time when I go to the Fredericksburg Tea Party event and I speak, I look out there in the crowd, I see a lot of gray-headed people. We're in the fight, but we need to get young men and women like here and over here in the fight, because if we don't, we're going to lose. We're fighting for their rights. We're out there putting our lives on hold to fight for our future for this nation. We're down here, and I understand maybe you can't make it down here for whatever excuse, but we need to start being down here. We need to start at the state level and work all the way up to the national level. Local, state, national. We need to do county, Second Amendment sanctuary counties. We've now got Second Amendment sanctuary state here in Texas. We need to support people like our Attorney General, Ken Paxton, because he supports our rights, and it really, really matters. I spent from 8 o'clock in the morning down here at the Capitol to 1:30 the next morning here at the Capitol testifying, and got jeered by the Uvalde families. And I get it, and I understand their pain. I can. I'm one of the few people that can. But they're misinformed. I went over, got in a hotel, and got up at 8 o'clock in the morning because I had to be back on the road and get on a Zoom call in Boulder, Colorado, where I waited 6.5 hours on a Zoom call to testify against an assault weapons ban in Boulder, Colorado. We defeated the bad laws here in Texas, and we beat the one in Boulder, Colorado also. Working for GOA has been one of my greatest honors. This is really cool to be able to work for GOA because we're fighting, we're making a difference. We're out there fighting state to state, we're making a difference. We filed a lawsuit in Oregon to stop Prop 114, and that's been put on hold. We've helped the red flag laws to prevent them from happening in New York. And we got an injunction against, or actually got that turned over. We got an injunction on the public places in New Jersey. And we're fighting state to state and nationwide. When I leave here, I'm flying to Phoenix, Arizona tomorrow morning, where we're going to go to CONCAN and we're going to talk to their state representatives in CONCAN, or CanCon is what it's called. And then after that to North Carolina. So I'm flying all over the place, fighting from state to state, but Texas is a stronghold. I tell people when I go to other states, we have a saying in Texas, and that's come and take it. Come and be more 2A relevant than Texas. But they talked about this earlier here. Because we had our foot on the pedal until we got constitutional carry. Now we've slacked off. It's time to put the foot back on the pedal and bring Texas up to be absolutely the most 2A friendly state in this nation. And we're close, but we're not close enough. It's time to drive it forward. It's time for Texas to be number one in this nation. I tell people all the time, I heard a saying that says, I wish Americans loved America as much as Texas loves Texas. We would be in a much better country if we were. It's time for Texas to lead the way, and GOA is in the fight. People like Wes out there every day working, and it's crazy how many hours he puts in here fighting for your rights. People like John Valeco back here fighting on a national scale, and we have state and local and fighting all the way up the line. I signed up a friend of mine not long ago, and he says, all y'all do is ask for money. I said, you know, it's great to be a member, and you don't have to contribute. But don't have a problem with us asking for money, because our lawyers have to be paid. I would ask you guys to sign up today for Gun Owners of America. We are fighting harder than anyone else. And Texas is a great place to start. Have lots of good events coming up. And I want to thank GOA for being part of that and letting me be part of it. They keep telling me, you know, you're national. You better let me take part in Texas while Texas is still part of this nation. Can I get an amen?
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming out. I want to tell you guys, please sign up. Come down here to the Capitol. Bring more people with you when you do. You know, this is a small group and we're dedicated. And I'm preaching to the preacher here. But we need to start getting younger people involved. We need to start getting involved, coming down to the Capitol, testifying and stuff. What I saw the other day was a little disheartening, and I understand. We got constitutional carry, and that's the gold standard. But we were fighting some bills that really were nasty down here. And we also pushed and got some bills passed here in Texas to put armed guards in schools. That's the true answer. And we had John Lott down here talking. John Lott, how many people know who John Lott is?
Yep.
John Lott is an amazing man, and he was down here testifying, and he was talking about the fact that, yes, armed guard's one thing, but you put a uniformed armed guard, and all he's doing is saying, hey, shoot me first. We need to start training and arming the teachers that would do that. We need to start protecting our schools like we protect our banks, like we protect our politicians. Our schools, our children, are the most valuable asset. And the police department took 77 minutes to respond. What a tragedy. What a tragedy. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Cody Brasino, a civilian, ran over with his gun while the shooter was still outside Uvalde, ran over with his pistol to stop the shooter. And the police that were there turned Cody around and told him, go back, go away, we've got this. And then when asked why they didn't engage the shooter when he was shooting through the outside windows into the school, the police officer said, I was waiting for permission. Let me tell you, brother, if you're shooting through the school windows, I got all the permission I need. That's all I need. I won't take any more of your time because I know everybody's waiting to hear from Ted Nugent. And me too. I'm the biggest fan out there sitting in the audience waiting. This man has done so much for so long for gun rights. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Really appreciate you being here today. Well, you guys, we've got a few extra minutes. If you'd like to stand up, go use the restroom, get a little drink, anything like that. I'm gonna call him Uncle Ted. I guess I can. Uncle Ted's gonna sit up here, and while you guys stretch out and get a refreshment or two, whatever you need to do. Thanks.
Hey,
Hey, what's going on?
thanks for being in the Army.
Oh, thank you.
You too.
All right, thank you then. What'd you do?
I was a special weapons guy.
Okay.
When I was enlisted.
Yeah.
I went to OCS. They sent me to one of those combat support specialties.
Yeah.
But the Army, as you know, is not a democracy. So back to 5th Med, 4 ID, 2nd Armored Truck.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I was the third ID in Iraq.
Oh, okay.
We were, I was with everybody in second brigade in Afghanistan. We were under the board in Kandahar. So,
Peak.
yeah, third corps. And yeah, at that time they were there doing, they were the senior element. So, but yeah.
So you live here in Austin now?
Well, I live an hour north, in Temple. I still live up there. I just come to Austin a lot to fight for bills.
That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's where I retired out of.
I love
Yeah. Well, it's not, well, it's always gonna be Fort Hood, but it's
Colossus.
Yeah. But if you look on Google Maps, it's already insane.
Colossus, I went with him when I was a sub ID to Panama.
Okay. Oh, you're in Panama.
Sorry?
When were you in Panama?
That would have been 90 or 91.
Oh, okay, that was
See,
97.
to see Noriega.
98 down there.
He's a Frenchman.
Yeah.
There wasn't much of a fight.
Yeah.
They never.
He knows Naomi. Steve.
We're down our way, man.
Oh yes, thank you. I've only got a digital card. I've gone to digital cards now. This is my business card. It automatically loads into people's phones.
Cool.
Yeah, just send us an email. I'll add you to our.
Okay.
We also have SD, Senate District Planning Group.
Is Bandera District 24 still?
Senate District.
Senate District 24? Okay, yeah, because I remember coming down there when I ran for Senate way back when.
Our representative, state rep, so we'll get rid of this.
Mustache Murr.
Yeah. He's called a lot worse.
Yeah.
Where we're at.
Deservingly.
Yes.
Looking at your grip, sir.
Open Carry, Texas?
Oh, okay.
Everyone's like, what's the secret to October? I'm like, I have a tattoo here for OCC, and everybody kept asking about it. And I'm like, not that anybody ever sees it, except for my wife, she knows. But I went and got a second tattoo that says Open Carry, Texas underneath it. Just in case one day, someone's like, what's October? Is that free? Yeah, it says Open Carry, Texas underneath it.
But anyway,
Yes, sir.
That's a question.
Yeah.
On the gun-free
Anyway.
zones,
I'm talking to you. Send me your email and I will put up.
I will. I will.
on the gun-free zones thing?
Yeah.
If that goes through, does that mean that we can now carry post office, hospitals, my grandson's school?
So it would not, anything that we pass here would not be a federal property. So the post office thing would not apply. Yeah, federal buildings, post offices, yeah, that stays.
Schools?
Now schools are different. That's what we're trying to get rid of is the gun-free zones there.
Or does each,
And
if we pass that, does each school then say?
we don't want them to be able to decide because they can decide now if they're gun-free. Because they can create policies that allow people to carry there. One of the things we didn't kind of get into is if you've got an LTC, the School Zones Act doesn't apply to you anyway, only state law does. So you can literally, if you've got a license in Texas, so it's got to be for the state that you're in, I could carry right up to the front door of a school, open or concealed, and I'm not breaking the law. Now I'm not going to do it openly; it's going to freak everybody out. But you can carry as long as you don't go into a building. You can go to football games, you can all that kind of stuff. So
If you've got the license.
if you've got the license and from that state, like I used to carry on a Virginia license, so it didn't work here. Likewise, if I go to another state, the Safe School Zones Act applies to me, which is 1,000 feet, unless you're traveling through. Traveling through, that's an exception as well. But let's say you go to your nephew's you take your nephew to school because you're visiting in Montana or whatever. And if you want to drive him to school, you can't have a gun, technically. I mean, well, legally, not technically. Because constitutionally you can, but legally, if they don't have a law that says you can do that, then the federal law would apply that you're breaking the law as soon as you go to school to drop them off. Because you're not traveling through. So anyway, long story short is we're trying to get rid of statewide gun-free zones. So anything that is now, and obviously not prisons. You know, they freaking Democrats keep asking me, oh, so you think they should be able to have their guns in prison? I'm like, are you serious? I mean, yeah. And I even told the representative, I said, that is just a stupid question and I'm not answering it. Thank you. I'm like, I'm not gonna, yeah. I'm not even gonna play that game. I said, that's a stupid question. I'm not even gonna answer. You might as well ask me if I want to have a nuclear weapon in my pocket. You know. I've met Ted so many times. He's a great guy. I hope he's gonna do his. I think he's gonna do his Star Spangled Banner with the guitar, which I love. Oh yeah. I don't think. Well, normally when he comes to these kinds of events, he just does the Star Spangled Banner. It's a pretty long rendition. I don't think he plays any other songs. They're setting everything up right now. There's the pedal. I'm not sure. I've got
12:15 and 12:45.
Okay,
schedule.
so he'll probably have some speech stuff too as well, and then he'll play a few things as he's talking. He plays different things, so it's a really good. I like when he comes and does these. That pisses me off. That's what I was talking about up there.
It's going to change. We can film on.
Yeah, that really annoys me.
Okay, well maybe it'll fill up with to see him.
I don't know what happened. I don't know.
You go to Christmas.
I do. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be. I'm transitioning out of Open Carry Texas to Texas Gun Rights. So I'm wearing two hats right now. So I'm their legal and policy expert. Once I'm signed in, or once I'm officially licensed as an attorney, I'll be the NAGR or Texas GR attorney. So start putting our names on some bills.
Association Gun Rights, Texas. So I'm going to join this. I like that.
I've been a life member of GOA for probably 6 years, and then I'm a patron life member of the NRA. And as soon as Texas Gun Rights gets fully stood up, as an independent, I'll.
Are they taking
Or the cafeteria.
Yes. Yep. Hey, Wes, are y'all? You've got membership cards out there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you take this and scan the back of that, that'll take you to the community.
You know what time he's gonna start?
Right around 12.
All right, time to go to the bathroom.
I'll roll out the red carpet for you.
Yeah.
They're cute. It's so cute. Oh, that's the phone. You're right. You're right.
That's a 64, please.
So do you have like a home studio you record at? Yeah. Yeah, we had an upstairs. You still have those? Wow, that's super cool. I think I'm visiting at some point. Yeah. Yeah.
We got the calendar.
Do you have any idea what I'm supposed to play the national anthem? Anybody know that? Does anybody know when I'm supposed to play the national anthem? Who's in charge here? Obviously I There, all you country fans, we're learning real music here today.
There you go.
Oh, so gather around. It's going to be all right. Yeah. This is like a sonic shot, and it's not a vaccine. How about that fucking lick, huh?
Yeah.
Is everybody feeling good?
Yeah.
So I have no idea what their plans are, and I can give a shit. So I will go ahead and start speaking now, whether it's appropriate or not, because it's how I operate. Can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
And you're all filming this, so you can put it on YouTube and piss off Michael Moore. Good.
Yeah.
Are there any Michael Moore fan club members here?
No.
Because I want you to come right up front here and see if I can't fix you. You gotta love me, huh? I'm like Mother Teresa with a Glock, and I want you all to know that your being here could not be more critical in this horrible, horrible, treasonous treachery that America and Texas is strangled by. Are we all Texans?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100.
Yeah.
Got the shoes to prove it.
So then why hasn't our governor secured our border?
Exactly. Come on.
Anybody want to dare to answer that question?
Because he thinks he's.
Globalist.
I moved here from Michigan, and by the way, Detroit wasn't the murder capital because we're more violent. We're just better fucking shots. Is this appropriate? We're all shit kickers, right?
Yeah.
You can handle street slang.
Absolutely.
Well, the reason we are in this horrible, horrible chapter is because not enough of you were like me. Pretty cocky, huh? Yeah. The founding fathers wanted all Americans to be just like me. Defiant, suspicious of all authority, and to study the Constitution. I wrote Rango Tango, and I meant it, which qualifies me to write the Constitution. I could have written the Constitution. I could have plummeted under earth bare naked, and I would have still have been the Motor City Madman. I could have written down in a world where kings and tyrants and emperors controlled weak people. I would have not been a weak person. I would have wrote, you know, the king and the emperor and the tyrant, they won't let us speak freely. I think I'll write that down, that we can speak freely. I never went to college. I was too busy learning shit. And here's what I've learned. The kings and the emperors wouldn't let us choose our religion. I'd have wrote that down. I can choose my religion. No man has that power over me. I can speak my mind and I can choose my own religion or not. And let's see what else the kings and tyrants do. Well, they can come onto our village and take what we want. No, they can't come into the village. They can't come into my home without probable cause. I'll write that down. That should be in the First Amendment too.
Amen.
And then we should probably have a thing, we'll call it the media, like journalists. They're gone, but let's pretend there are journalists, even though Tucker was fired. So let's keep that as the First Amendment, that we get to protest and spotlight the cockroaches who we elect to represent us, and we can expose their crimes. That's the First Amendment.
Yeah.
Show me your First Amendment permit. No, I need to see your license. There it is right there. I hope you go, there's a small gaggle of shit kickers here today. I love you all madly. Do you feel the love?
Yes.
Follow me and live this shit. I have a First Amendment on planet Earth, wherever I may roam, and I don't need paperwork.
Amen.
That's right.
Amen.
Constitutional carry? Fuck you!
That's right.
What other kind of carry is there?
That's right.
Somebody, what other kind of carry is there?
Unconstitutional.
I want to meet, is the man in this room that can tell me where I can't defend myself? Step forward! Tell me I can't defend myself in lobbies. Fuck you!
Yeah.
No more bringing doilies to a grenade fight. Get an A-10 Warthog and bring it to the legislature. I don't need paperwork for my God-given rights while I'm walking the earth.
Amen.
Anybody want to debate that?
No.
Jesus, what a clusterfuck. Texas, Libby's cafeteria, gun-free zones. It doesn't compute. What has happened to us? Jesus God.
We got mellow.
We got pussified. You're listening to too much country music. That's why there's all this gender. That shit will neuter you.
Too much Lizzo.
I played country music one week after my fucking hand broke. It got better than I played real music again. My point is, are you having fun?
Yeah.
I come to Texas in '67 to rock and roll and kill a deer. Two perfect things.
Amen.
And the media would attack me for carrying a gun and killing deer and eating venison. Those are two perfect things. They're perfect. They're essential. They're God's miraculous design, protecting my gift of life and balancing the herd. And the people would attack me because I killed deer and carried a gun. It was like arm wrestling a torso. You've seen me debate these pricks, and I crushed them. You need to go forth from this event, and no more Mr. Nice Guy, no more Mr. Handshakes.
Cool.
Crush them. If each and every one of you aren't good for 100 people to join Gun Owners of America, if you, each and every one of you, can't get 100 people to join Gun Owners of America, you're not my friend. You're a pussy. This is just a little gaggle of people, I suspect the best of the best. You people care, don't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know God gave you these rights, don't you?
Yep.
There's no man can intervene between me and God. I want to meet this prick. Pierce Morgan tried. You saw what happened to him. Evan Smith on Texas Public Television tried. You saw what I did to him. So I come to Texas to rock and roll. Awesome rock and roll. You people deserve me. This is,
That's right.
you people know music. I love this shit. So many deer, your deer are so stupid in Michigan guitar players. I can kill them fucking Texas deer with a ball-peen hammer compared to Michigan. I'm lobbying now for a ball-peen hammer season. So, Stephen, ditto, duh. Truth, logic, common sense. Self-evident truth.
Yep.
Self-evident logic. Ubiquitous, not universal, but ubiquitous common sense. It really is. This freak in the White House does not represent good America. There are more of us. So I came to Texas, holy God. And I always had a gun. I've never been unarmed and helpless. It's indecent. To be unarmed and helpless is indecent. To be unarmed and helpless is saying, God, I appreciate the gift of life, but I'm willing to give it up. And then I appreciate the gift of life, but if somebody wants to take it, I'll just give it to them. Bullshit. You get in the way of me seeing Mrs. Nugent tonight, I will cut you in half. Anybody want to debate? Stop me when I confuse you.
Not this crowd.
How about, is there some anti-gun or subhuman chimpanzee in here that wants to debate me? My guitar's pissed off. So I come to Texas, and I was carrying a Model 19 2-inch nickel with 357 Winchester 125, doing about 1,400 feet a second. Fucking awesome, huh? And one of my buddies, I'm killing hogs, he goes, "Oh, you see you got a pistol." I go, "Duh. You know, you can't carry that in Texas." "Yeah, I can." "I know, but it's not legal." "You what? You know this? I couldn't carry a gun in Texas when I came here?" "Look, Texas, I love you, but they're the dumbest motherfuckers on planet Earth here."
Mm-hmm.
The law in Texas, this is worse than Michigan. This is worse than New Jersey. Have I got your attention yet? Yeah. That a Texas Second Amendment regulation is worse than New Jersey? And it said, I can carry a pistol only in the glove box, but only if I cross 2 county lines. What the fuck is that? What is that? And you people were so stupid to elect Ann Richards, who even after innocent Texans were slaughtered at Libby's, said you still can't defend yourself.
That's right.
As she took photos with somebody else's turkey, with somebody else's gun, and the Texans are going, "Hey, hell, you support that, right? Yeah, she's my governor." Turd in their lip. Anybody got a turd in their lip here? What is that? Anyhow. Do you realize how offensive that is?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say keep in glove box, it doesn't say keep in truck, it doesn't say keep in safe, it doesn't say keep in case. It says keep in bear. Mm-hmm. Does the guitar player really need to interpret that for you? What? Do you even know what poontang is? It ain't Sheila Jackson Lee, I promise you anyhow.
What's up with that?
What's up with that? What's down with that? So, if you can't go forward and fix this in Texas, you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
If you're not pissing off the assholes, you're an asshole.
That's right.
If people that think gun infringement is okay is your friend and you can't fix them, they can't be your friend. Because that's why those children died at Libby's in Uvalde. And now let's get on to the next horror story. I want you to all write this down and repeat it everywhere you go, especially you legislators out there. Engineered recidivism. 100% of violent crimes is committed by people we caught committing those violent crimes, and our system lets them out.
That's right.
Engineered recidivism. So they catch thousands of monsters shooting people on film in Chicago and Detroit and New Orleans and Baltimore and New York. They got him on film committing dozens of gun crimes, Hunter Biden, and they dropped the gun charges, but they want to ban my goose gun. It is semi-automatic. It's Planet of the Coopers. What is that? You see, it's engineered recidivism. They're sicking evil people upon innocents so they can blame the gun.
Yep.
Here's my idea. It's not an idea, it's perfect. Somebody smashes and grabs your mom and pop business, shoot that motherfucker.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
If someone approaches your vehicle, Sergeant Dan Perry, and levels a rifle at you, shoot that motherfucker.
Yeah.
And then Texas will put you in jail for not letting someone kill you. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Sergeant Dan Perry is in jail
Yes.
because Texas courts thinks you're supposed to let someone kill you.
Only certain people.
It's way worse than what you said was true, but it's way worse. They are celebrating murder and condemning self-defense. We are currently in a horrible condition in America thanks to Joe Biden and all of his gangsters and the FBI and the DEA and the ATF. Let me guess, I'm just a guitar player, but why would you have an agency that deals with alcohol? It's a drink. Tobacco is an agriculture product, and firearms that we have by constitutional care. Why would there be an agency ATF? Any ATF guys in here? Come the fuck up here! How do you live with yourself?
Yep.
How do you treat your children? Is there an honest bone in your body? Is this a great fucking speech or what?
Excellent.
This is what we're all supposed to be. No man has authority over my living and dying. God and me. So if you can't recruit the embarrassing, soulless, spineless, ballless, apathetic facilitators of evil, I'm not into politics. Then move to Cuba where you're not allowed to. Politics in America are paying for those flag-draped coffins that made the ultimate sacrifice so that we can experiment in self-government. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Am I right, Gary? How many guys you drag off the field in bags?
Lots.
We owe those guys.
That's right.
Amen.
That's right.
And it all can be paid back by voting the Constitution that they died for.
That's right.
Amen. Are you kidding me? If one of my kids, I'm not into politics, well, you need to get into politics. This is awesome. I hope you're fucking writing this down. So I suppose I could have been PG-13, but then it would just facilitate the evildoers who take advantage of politeness and gentlemanliness.
That's right.
This isn't just a culture war, it is a spiritual war.
No quarters.
And you want to hear the most heart, I could cry tears of blood right now. I saluted thousands of flag-draped coffins in Afghanistan, and I cried for days. And then I come to this. And this devil freak is the commander-in-chief? And Greg Abbott is my governor who refuses to secure my...
Yeah.
I bet you if I wanted to, I could say, everybody take a deep breath and get some water. I'd recommend grabbing some toilet paper too, because we're going to the border and we're turning invaders back.
Right.
You can't come here.
Right.
Go back.
Yes.
Thank you, brother. So, duh. Any question? Well, you just can't shoot innocent people. They're not innocent. They're invading my country. Thousands of Chinamen.
Yep.
who are dedicated to kill us.
Yep.
Thousands of Iraqis in Afghanistan and Muslim terrorists, Islamic maniacs and cartel and child sex traffickers that will get you across the border if I can rape you.
Yep.
Am I confusing anybody yet? Does anybody want to take on any of my statements? I dare you. So if we're going to pay back the debt to those heroes, then we have to demand total constitutional accountability.
Yep.
And Texas is full of violators in the legislature,
Yep.
in the Senate, in
Yes.
the Congress,
Yes.
in law enforcement.
Both
I'm
parties.
a sheriff deputy for 40 years. I got 14 felony arrests to my credit, which is why my guitar playing is sexier than everybody else's. You can't play shit like this unless you've arrested a few assholes. Do you feel the love?
Oh, yeah.
I have faced murderers and rapists and child molesters and carjackers. And you don't go in like this, you go in like this. Safety off, taking up slack. I was looking for weapons. Didn't see any. So I'm a different guy. This American dream is so unique. How dare we give it away like we've given it away? Because you got a beer and some NFL tickets? I don't drink beer. I don't watch guys beat the shit out of each other. So this little gaggle of people could make a difference, but not if you just go out of here and go, yeah, that was great. God damn, let's get a beer. You need to get active. You need to start. Your mayor should know your name. And if your mayor allows fat, perverted men in spandex dressed up like female prostitutes to twerk their children with their crotch, singing, I love it when you kiss me where I pee. Am I confusing anybody? Texas allows that. Not in my county, not McClellan County. We will knock you out. We'll choke you with your spandex. I won't, because maybe I could bring some gun gloves with me just in case. All right.
No, got it.
We got it.
Our work is cut out for us.
Yeah.
Secure the border, stop the engineered recidivism. I don't want rapists on the street. I either want them dead or in a cage forever. Well, that's cruel and unjust punishment. I like the cruel part. And it's just. I don't want a repeat carjacker. I want a dead carjacker.
Right.
I don't want a repeat stabber. Well, he didn't kill him. Well, he tried. You're gonna let him out so we can study the anatomy so he gets the ventricles next time? That's what they do. You get to stab people. You get to shoot people. Well, he didn't kill him. Well, if you're shooting at people, that's attempted murder. You're just shitty at it.
Right.
You see what's, and some legislation, it's unbelievable. To my mind, none of my family thinks like that.
Right.
None of my band, none of my friends, none of my hunting buddies, I don't know anybody that thinks these indecent, toxic, anti-human, vulgar thoughts. And I'm 75 years clean and sober, hence the syllable control, not to be confused with Ozzy. The point being, love Ozzy. He's going through terrible times right now. Might have been the ants he snorted. Anyhow, what planet are these people? Well, Nugent's a radical. Hello?
Yeah.
Well, Nugent's an extremist. Duh! Experimenting in self-government is the most radical thing in the history of the human species.
Right.
Amen.
Of course we're radical. You send your punks to the Concord Bridge to disarm us, we will shoot you in the face. Well, violence is never the answer. Of course it is. Old Yeller, bring me my slippers, biscuit. Foam at the mouth, bullet. Us old guys back there going, no shit. And even the young guys are going, yeah, that makes sense. So, are there any questions? I can't imagine there being a question at this point. But it's about whether you are sincere. And if you're sincere, your chief of police must know you. He must go, oh, goddamn, Jimmy's calling again. I love the chief of police, if he's a good one. Your state trooper commander must know your family, if he's a good one. And if he's a bad one, he should really know your family. Does he support the indecency of what happened in Uvalde? That's indecent. It's soulless. It's anti-human, and it violated those cops' directions and oath. I've trained since Columbine. You charge as fast as you can to the gunfire.
Don't put shoes on.
And you don't put your shoes on.
Please put pants on.
Again, I know I'm preaching to people that, duh, yeah, hello, no shit. But if you don't act upon it, you're no friend of freedom. If you have oath violators in your Senate, in your Congress, in your chief of police, at your school board, in your governor's office, and they don't know that you are displeased with their failures to live to their oath, then you're the problem.
Yep. Right.
Worse than communism, worse than Nazis, worse than liberals, worse than Democrats, worse than Joe Biden. You ready? Apathy.
Yep.
Standing by and letting evil run amok, which is where we are on this 26th day of April 2023. It's not their fault, it's our fault. That unbelievable anti-American law in Texas about defending yourself, carrying a gun. I remember I got dizzy. I go, what? Huh? There's no Second Amendment in Texas? Huh? Huh? And then Libby's happened. I went, see, that's what happens. Of course that's what happens. I've never been in a gun-free zone. The moment I arrive, it ceases to be one. Whenever you've seen me on TV, I'm heavy.
Yeah.
CNN?
Yep.
Heavy. Fox? I'm heavy. MTV? I'm heavy. Yeah. I'll wrap it up with this because you love the stories, don't you? How about anybody out there? You look like you're squalling over there. So you have a problem with anything I've said? Hey, I'm talking to you, Baldy. No. Just I love you. I love you with all my heart and soul in my magazine capacity. So I went to Fallujah with the Marines.
Oh, Fallujah.
I'm
I was
just a
there.
guitar player, and I did not dodge the draft. If I'd have been drafted, we'd have won the fucking war. Got that water in it? So Toby Keith and I go to Fallujah to thank the warriors for their sacrifice, fighting evil. Even though that was a scam. That was a scam, George. But we believed that we needed to show support for the heroes that dedicated their lives to our Constitution. So we went to Fallujah. And I'm going to Fallujah. And I'm heavy when I go to the store for milk and bread. I always carry a couple of 10 millimeters and 2 to 4 magazines. I'm going to Fallujah. So I got both 10s. I got a Glock 20 and a Glock 29, and I got 16 mags. And a bag of ammo. It's awesome. The guy's carrying my bags. What the hell's in here? A young man. For the Joint Chiefs of Staff to molest. Well, we could go there, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Mark Milley is the Joint Chiefs of Staff. General Mark Milley, this fat slob can't do a push-up. Anyhow.
He was my CG.
So I'm going to Fallujah. So I got my hardware on, and I'm going to a metal detector, which I'm surprised didn't start beeping when I was 50 yards back. And Toby Keith and I are saying thank you to all the military heroes and all the media, and going to Fallujah, and going to Afghanistan, all through Iraq to thank the heroes. Toby Keith, great patriot. And we're approaching the jet. It was, what's the ketchup lady's name? We're getting on a private jet to fly to Iraq. And I'm going, geez, there's a metal detector there. This ought to be interesting. So I'm shaking everybody's hand, the metal detector, I don't know if I should even tell you this, but what the fuck? So I'm getting ready, and there's the metal detector here, and I'm shaking, taking photos with all the guys, and the metal detector's right there. I go, thank you, I can't tell you how proud we are to go, and I went around that fucker and got on the plane.
Nice.
So, and I didn't even inform the pilots of the increased weight, because it was substantial. So we land, we go to Fallujah. Fallujah's under attack. We got 3 operators hanging from the bridge, burned to death. Remember that?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, I know how that happened. They weren't allowed to defend themselves. They were unarmed and helpless. Some man thought he had the authority to say, you guys, you're going to Iraq, but you will be unarmed and helpless. And those guys were like, okay. I've never said okay. I've never said that. Except to Mrs. Nugent, hourly. So, we were begging to go into Fallujah where the firefights are going on, the bombs are going off. And they said, no, it's a hot zone, can't go, can't go. So 3 in the morning, all of a sudden, we woke up in the barracks in the green zone in Baghdad. We're going to Fallujah, get your stuff. So we scrambled and we got an Apache attack helicopters. You're gonna love this shit. This is awesome. This is why I'm like I am. Turd noodle, if I can see it right now. I go up to guys that chew tobacco and I go, did you know a dog shit in your lip? Do you not taste that? Anyhow, so stupid. Yeah. So we're going in Apache attack helicopters into Fallujah. Tracers are going off and rockets and bombs and everything. Wow. So we land, we circle to get out of the way of the rockets, and we land. Bombs are going off, and we get in a Hummer. And here's what another beautiful thing about me. So I get in the Hummer door doesn't lock. It doesn't close. I'm hanging on, going through craters, bomb craters and stuff. So I took out my belt tool and I fixed the damn door. And so we're good. And so we get into Fallujah and we go to Saddam's banquet room where all the Marines are. And they'd lost a lot of brothers. They've been stacking the coffins. So I know there's unbelievable spirit in the air. You try to stay strong. You try to give them courage that we know what they're going through. We don't really know, but we think we know what you're going through, and we're here to show our support. And it's not Toby and Ted. It's all good Americans. They all send their love, and they pray for you guys, and I let them have it. And I played Great White Buffalo. What a great song. And on this piece of shit guitar, but it still sounded good. And we're finished, and I'm thanking these, loaded with Marines. They're all M4, all heavy. Must have been, I don't know, 500 or 600 of them, bigger than this room. And Toby and I are up there thanking them, and I said, we know why you're here. We know that oath. Those words have iron.
Yeah.
And I was bawling like a baby, because I just saluted all those coffins, and it was very painful. But it was fortifying. It was, you fuck with me. That's how I've always been. And so I thanked them for standing up for the Constitution. That First Amendment is sacred. And then I lifted my shirt and I said, and especially the Second Amendment. And here's all this hardware. And they went, and they went nuts. Because here's a guy doing a USO tour, got more ammo than they do. And they went berserk. Because it was an optic defining why they do what they do. It really is. Because if you can't keep bear arms, you're not a free man. And they were dying so we can be free. Right. So I get off in just a puddle of emotion. This is it. And the commander comes up to me and goes, how'd you get that gun in here?
Oh my gosh.
And I said, by saluting those flag-draped coffins yesterday that died so I could. That's how I got it in here. What's your fucking point?
Yes.
Ring any bells? Perfect challenge, perfect response. And he went, the other Marines are over there going, holy shit, you can't talk to him like that. Yeah, well, I can't, because you work for me, motherfucker.
That's right, you're the boss.
That was the moment, one of many, where I went, I'm right, they're wrong. Yeah. What do you mean, how did I get it in there? Because you're here fighting so I can. Yeah. See what I mean? Yeah. that there's a debate somebody's gonna argue? It's offensive to me. I brush it off like hygiene from Michael Moore. We're gonna do a benefit for him next week and try to get him a washcloth and some soap. Anyhow, so that's one of the reasons Gun Owners of America brought me here, and I'm sure they're now going, Jesus, should he have been talking like that? You're damn right I should be talking like this, because I'm talking to real Americans, rock solid in the asset column, who stand up for freedom, but you need to go forth to all your friends. You need to recruit an army of absolutists. I'm not happy with constitutional carry except over here. Well, you have constitutional carry except here.
Right,
Oh,
exactly.
by the way, let me summarize it, and I will shut up someday.
Why?
I never went to college. I was too busy learning stuff. The Constitution says any rights herein not enumerated are left up to the states. I have a national First Amendment because it's enumerated. How dare a state think that they can infringe on my Second Amendment right that is a national, God-given,
Amen.
constitutionally guaranteed? How are you kidding me? It's not a state's power.
Yep.
It's enumerated. I have all those enumerated rights wherever I may roam.
Amen.
Amen.
Right.
Call your mayor, call your senator, call your chief of police. Well, there are regulations. No, those are infringements.
Right.
So, in one of my debates where I accumulated more skull tissue from a liberal, they go, well, there's just too many guns. I go, no, there's not. No such thing. I go, you know, more kids die from drowning than from guns. I'll tell you what, let's do a deal right here live on your radio show. You get rid of the guns, and I'll get rid of the water.
Yeah.
Well, that's ridiculous. Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what Stephen referenced, the Angels of Death Metal, or whatever that heavy metal band is, Jesse Helms, a friend of mine, on stage, when some extremists, the bad extremists, entered the concert with real AK-47s. Which, by the way, an AK-47 is a fully automatic Kalashnikov, never ever been used in a crime in America.
Mm-hmm.
Those are SKSs or semi-auto versions. It's not a weapon of war. People don't go to war with semi-automatics. Lies, 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 and lies. Do you think there may be some restrictions in Paris about brandishing a Kalashnikov?
Yeah.
And the superlative or the superfluous law you would pass would sound like what? The law you would write to have stopped that, better than the laws on the books, would sound like what?
Yeah.
Write the law. Write the law that would have stopped any of this stuff. Every violent crime where a gun is used breaks dozens, if not hundreds of laws. You can't write that law. You need to keep violent criminals in graves or cages. And if people threaten innocent lives, there must be a cuckoo's nest built for them.
Yep.
Every one of these shootings, there's all kinds of warnings.
That's right.
Every one.
Yep.
And they didn't want to hurt feelings. I like hurting feelings.
Yeah.
You're stupid. I hope I cause you much anguish
Yes.
in the process of educating you. So that's my spiel for the day, Gun Owners of America. Thank you for being here. I mean, literally, I covered a lot of ground. And by the way, I've been doing this since I was 16, when I was attacked for carrying guns and killing deer. And I wasn't trained in debate. I'd become the master. Nobody could touch me. Nobody could touch me. They scurry like the hippies. When I walk down the streets of Austin, the hippies scurry like the Red Sea before Moses. They don't have anything to do with me. So
Quit beating around the bush.
Yeah, I shave bushes, pal.
Tell us how you really feel.
People say, yeah, it always ruffles feathers. I don't ruffle feathers, I pluck them.
Yes.
So I've been at this a long time, but I hope you're able to list my points here today. They're all valid.
It's from a soldier of 28 years of service to our country. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's my job. It's all of our jobs. You need to be more like Ted Nugent. So go forth, but learn these things. Go to my website. I got this stuff. I reiterate it all the time. And when they try to push back against bring out more infringements, you should be able to eviscerate them.
Yes.
Right. Amen. Hey, how come they don't compare gun deaths to fentanyl deaths?
Say again.
Why do they not compare gun deaths to fentanyl deaths?
Well, all right, there's Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam is waging chemical warfare on America.
Yep.
Uncle Sam, Greg Abbott, has opened the borders for the communist Chinese chemical warfare of fentanyl and meth, assisted by the devils of the Mexican drug cartels, rape, torture, murder. Uncle Sam is responsible for more American deaths annually than died in the Vietnam War.
Yep.
So how do we get Governor Abbott to do the right thing?
You put the pressure on that son of a bitch. I got him elected. I went on tour and I welcomed him and I introduced him on all his different campaign stops. And he loved me, yeah, right on. And you know how, I couldn't say the words I'm using here today because there were children in the audience. No children here, for the children. And then after I got him elected, when I saw him making mistakes, I would call and call, refuse to return my call. And not because I'm Ted Nugent, but because I see infringements.
Right.
Greg Abbott had a Second Amendment roundtable and invited the Sarah Brady gang.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Really? We're going to have a school playground security meeting and invite John Wayne Gacy?
Yeah.
Anybody questions? Anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So if Governor Abbott and his staff, because he won't answer your call,
Exactly.
you need to hammer them till they can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
You need to email and fax and text and call. You know, who's that? Again? Yeah, again. Again? Yeah, again. Again? Yeah, again. We gave up. We're pussies. I don't give up. I'm not a pussy. There's not an elected employee. By the way, they're not elected officials.
Right.
We are the electing officials. They're the elected employees.
Yes.
And when did they discover they can give themselves a raise without touching base with their bosses?
That's right.
Insider trading without Look, Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes, alive and well in Texas. So, be relentless. If they don't hear from you constantly with reasonably gentle prodding, I'm reasonably gentle when I prod the first 4 or 5 times. Then I call in the 8th and warthog. So that's how you do it. And you know what? Why that answer is good? Because we haven't. People, I call them, I go, no, it doesn't count. You know, one time. Get everybody in your family, get everybody at deer camp, get everybody at the barbecue, get all your friends and go, what is this? Well, it's constitutional carry, except over here you can't defend yourself. Yes, I can. You're not in charge of that. I got it from God. Well, you don't want everybody running around with guns. I want everybody except bad guys, and the bad guys should either be dead or in a cage. Well, you can't always predict that. Of course you can't. But that would eliminate 99%. If someone's willing to hit somebody in the back of the head with a baseball bat or shove them in front of a train or carjack and shoot and stab, rehabilitation? No way. If they are inclined to stab you, they are done. I don't want my family shopping with a stabber or a rapist or a carjacker or a molester or a home invader or a smash and grabber. The identity of evil Who doesn't see this? If you don't smash and grab, have a nice day. If you do smash and grab, thump.
Yep.
Thump. Thump. Double tap. Quadruple tap. So the answers are just, to me, I'm sitting back watching America, especially since I moved to Texas 21 years ago. And I started coming here and saw there was no Second Amendment. Then the Texas Parks and Wildlife think they can just come on your property without an arrest, without a search warrant, violated their Fourth Amendment, and they chuckle when you tell them that. I got a citation book. I wrote my own citation book. And if they try that with me, I'm giving them a ticket. I'm going to go, hang on a second. What do these initials stand for? What's your full name? Let me see your driver's license. They won't know whether to shit or go blind. I need to see some ID. We'll get to me in a minute when I'm done with you. And I'm going to write them up. In Michigan, I'm not allowed to shoot doves. Not according to my freezer. They call it a songbird. There's a picture of a dove in a shotgun shell box. I said to the Attorney General in Michigan, I go, do you have a shotgun shell box with a picture of a cardinal on it? He goes, what do you mean? I go, you heard me. Because I'm not allowed to hunt doves in Michigan. It's the #1 game animal on planet Earth. It's a game bird. It's a federal migratory. You're lying. You're a liar. You're a liar. Here's a dove in 12 games, 7.5 shot. Show me the picture of a cardinal on a shotgun shot, then we'll talk. Until then, fuck you. I can tell you that was one of the reasons I moved here. Everything I do is the right thing. I'm very conscientious. Everything I do is the right thing. It's good for me, it's good for my family, it's good for the environment, it's good for my fellow man, it's good for freedom. Everything I do is good. I'm a good man. But everything I do that is good is illegal in Michigan. If a beaver's flooding my driveway, I'm supposed to call a guy. I want to know the man who thinks he can handle beavers better than me. Call a guy. I got this. In Michigan, you can't have a long gun unless it's in a case inaccessible to the occupants of the vehicle. Really? Give me your fucking driver's license. I'm writing you up. You're infringing. I'm legal. You're illegal. And they know it. We can shoot sandhill cranes in Michigan after we harass the Department of Natural Resources. They're as bad as the Texas Parks and Wildlife. We have some bad people in Texas Parks and Wildlife. They get to stormtroop people's property and slaughter their deer herd under the lie that there's a chronic wasting disease that threatened the herd. They kill all the deer, don't find it, and go, hell, sorry about that. CWD doesn't threaten deer in Texas. The Texas Parks and Wildlife threatens deer in Texas. Look into it. It's a horror story, worse than New Jersey.
Yeah.
I'm going on and on here, aren't I? So I think we all got the picture. Everybody remove their hats. Matt, good to see you, man. Did you feel that?
Yeah, that was good.
Did I make any sense? You were here for the whole thing?
No, I haven't. I just came from the House floor.
Hey, Ted, he's one of the good guys.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. Ted helped me get constitutional carry passed.
Yes.
A step in the right, what we did is we lost the Second Amendment. It didn't exist in Texas. So we're getting it back step by step.
Amen.
And that's the first good step. But now we need real constitutional carry on American soil. The Second Amendment is enumerated in the Constitution, and it says it's not up to the state. We need to focus on Texas, but we need to send the rest of the country a signal. Don't tread on me.
Why does Matt have to swim upstream so hard?
Because the people of Texas don't raise enough hell. You don't follow his lead. You don't call your governor and pound him. You don't call the other senators and pound them. Your chief of police, your mayor, your state trooper commander, your sheriff. They need to know your family name and that you support Sergeant Dan Perry.
Yes.
Let him out of jail.
Yeah.
You can't charge a person for not letting someone kill them. What the?
Hey, do you think these guys could get their panel going now?
I would.
All right, let's do it.
I'll put the guitar away.
All right, Ted, thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
for putting up with me.
And I'd like to say to everybody, thank you all for coming out. Thank you to Ted Nugent today for speaking. If you can, go by your legislator's office, let them know where you stand, and we've got cards up front.
Hey, Ted, I was in Fallujah. Thank you for going.
My
Thanks a lot for coming, guys. Appreciate
That was a
it.
That's
nasty
why my
place.
words have iron, because I was there.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Ted.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
What's going on? Is there something else going on? Matt, is there something else going on? Another event? Oh.
I think they had some other parts of the program they wanted to get to.
Oh, okay. Good to see you.
Yeah, good
I
to
gotta
see you. Yeah.
I had some.
Let's go get you squared away on
This is
your
my.
license yet?
Yeah, we're all squared away. This is my new law firm pin. I'll get you one, but
Okay.
it's a badass Lady Justice with an AR instead of a sword.
I love it.
I love it. He did such a great job. I was like, well, I should pay you more for this. So. Oh, there it is. Oh, dang it. I was just looking for that.
It was worth the price of admission.
I love listening to him do that. It's always different every time I've heard him. Let me ask you a quick side question. Is there, if a chair is allowing like supporters of a bill, let's say, on the clock, and I'm not talking about just speaking over their time, if he clocks gun control people at twice the rate that he gives gun rights people, is there an ethics place I can file a complaint on? Because that's unconstitutional. 2744, they set the clock at 4 minutes for everybody that was in support of the bill. They set the clock at 2 minutes for everybody that was opposed to it.
I don't know if there's a rule on that. I don't know. What's the remedy?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the only thing I can do is get someone to say we won't do it again, or...
Who did that? You?
Yeah.
He literally said if you're 4, you get this?
No. Now, initially, he said everybody gets 2 minutes because of how many people. But I went back and looked because I felt like, why are these people... It feels like they're able to talk forever, and we're having to rush through our 2 minutes. And so I went and looked at the video, and I clocked every single person. The average was 354 for them. And I'm talking about the clocks, not the overtime.
Well, sometimes it's loosey-goosey, because sometimes the chair, like... Let me give you an example. There's an older lady gets up there.
Yeah.
Forget the clock, he lets her
Yeah.
go. So how do you
And that's
really do all
and that I'm
That's
not worried
hard.
about. Like if he was telling us to shut up after, but I'm talking about the actual yellow light, green light, red light was set at twice the time for proponents than it was for opponents.
I've never visited that issue, so I don't know the answer. Certainly unfair.
Yeah. I think it's content-based discrimination, but I don't know. I don't know. I talked to the clerk yesterday, and I asked him about it, and he just outright denied it. And I said, but I've got it on video. I did an entire video about it. I showed my spreadsheet. I proved my spreadsheet by using time hacks on the video. I don't think that's what happened. I'm like, you can see the yellow light at 3.5 minutes going off. It should have gone off at 1 minute and 45 seconds. So, anyway, I got
actually setting.
He was setting it. I saw him. You see him on the thing setting the clock that way. That's what I'm talking about.
That is not good.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the chairman, it was actually the clerk.
But they were whispering to each other.
I wonder if he told him to give him more time.
Yeah. And look, if he would have just said, well, out of respect for the Uvalde families, we wanted to give them extra time, I'd be like, okay, I do understand that. But you also gave extra time to Newtown Alliance and Everytown for gun safety. Those people they actually set those timers for 3 minutes. So it was an intentional thing. Yeah. I did a video, not that you got more important things to do, but I did a video that broke this all down. Anyway, I didn't know what the remedy was and thought you might know.
I have never entertained that question before, so I really don't know.
Okay.
I don't think there's a point of order.
I looked through the rules. I thought, okay, well, maybe there's invited testimony. And they give more time to invited testimony, but nobody was invited testimony.
We just started winging it. I just figured it.
Do what?
We just started winging it.
Yeah. Well, are you going to try to do something now, or what are you going to do? You gonna bust it out?
Oh, was that the end of it?
That's the end of it.
Oh, okay.
All right. I'm back to the
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Thanks for coming.
Hey, keep up the good work, man. It's good seeing you. All right, that's the end of it, guys. Sorry about that. I thought there was another issue. Hope you enjoyed it. Y'all take care. Be safe. Be free.